depending on the matchup. Who are you facing? So today it really has been favoring black, but I think it will be maybe potentially even a different story in the upcoming Armageddons. Praggnanandhaa against Alireza Firouzja. How do you see that matchup, Danny, for the Armageddon?
I'm gonna keep going with black here. Yeah, I think first of all, I think Firouzja played. I don't want to say he played better. Obviously, they finished with a draw, but I felt like black was never really in trouble. I liked the way he played that last game. I see the momentum. I'm kind of going with whatever's in the air today. Betting it all on black right now. I think that I think someone has to win with white to kind of break the curse and prove it. And whether this will just be seen in hindsight as the particular matchups, the particular players who were favored as black. Obviously, when Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura are black, you tend to favor those guys a lot of the time in Armageddon, no matter what color they have. So who knows? But I'm going with Alireza here as well. I don't know if either of you two has a different pick before we see our first moves.
I'll say Prag, just to be different. And when these two met in the candidates tournament, the games were really fiery. And again, if that happens now, 3-minute time advantage might be a factor.
Yeah, I'm going with Prag too. I think it could be either of those really. But I'm expecting fireworks. I'm expecting a very sharp game, and I think it could be the first potential Armageddon where white wins. I just wanted to quickly add that we are going into 6 Armageddons. June has just drawn her game against Vaishali, so every single game of the day is going into an Armageddon, and they will be playing Armageddon almost at the same time. We're gonna have to be like trying to.
I don't think we're taking any more breaks until we have all the Armageddons in the books. And okay, you both picked Prag. I'm sticking with Alireza. Remember, Alireza, as we showed early on to start the day, has a +2 advantage in their career in Classical. I don't know if these guys have a history in Armageddon against each other, but okay, Firouzja, we have a different opening, different game. The first one, if you joined late, was an open kind of Catalan. But this is very different than what we had in the Classical affair, David.
Very different. It's a Queen's Pawn opening, not the Queen's Gambit, because White hasn't put a pawn on c4. He stopped 1 square short. And the White Queen to c2, a really rare move, was aimed against Black's bishop landing on f5. But this is interesting from Firouzja. He's pretty much insisting. He's moved the same piece twice now in the opening, breaking some rules that we're taught, but clear idea in mind. Bishop f5 will indirectly hit the White Queen and gain more time. Anna, here, Prag's going for the surprise, but he's been surprised himself in return.
Yeah, Firouzja took a few seconds to consider what to play after queen to c2, but now the surprise, as you mentioned, David, is hitting back almost, and he still goes for g3, so he still goes for a similar setup as you would in the Catalan, being the difference, the c-pawn, not on c4, but on c3.
But again, Firouzja taking a note out of Magnus and Hikaru's book, playing an obscure approach that throws his opponent off. We already see that time advantage sort of dwindling for white. And how often do you see a knight on e4 and a pawn on h6, around move 5? Like, not that often, right? This is a unique setup. And it just shows you where chess has come, right? These players are working so hard with their supercomputers at home. They know how many positions are playable that break principles, like moving a piece twice, putting a knight in the center. So it's fascinating. I love to see the strategies. Players certainly come into these events with some weapons, David, that they plan to use should they get in this spot.
Yeah, the top players, they have classical repertoires, rapid repertoires, blitz, bullet repertoires even these days, and so many tricks, so many kind of weapons up their sleeve, and it's just about when to deploy which ones. And h6, really sneaky idea. Bishop f5 is the idea, but he wants a safe hiding square for his bishop on h7.
And now c4, this is not a good sign when you need to push the pawn to c4 in 2 moves, right? You went to c3, and now you go to c4. Also, the time advantage is evaporating.
Yeah. I love the featured chat there. Why is Alireza making weird moves that do nothing like me, right? Well, I mean, Hikaru did one of those. Magnus Carlsen broke just as many principles, backing up the bishop to c5 and from b4 if you missed that game. So, the principles have evolved. The I for one welcome our artificially intelligent overlords. They have taught us much about chess. It is more interesting and exciting than maybe we thought it would be, 20 years ago. And look at the position. Black has made some weird moves, but so has white, and it's a 50-50 battle.
Yeah, white has lost 2 moves with his queen. He's lost 2 moves with his c-pawn, and I was about to say, the normal way you meet any hits on the b7 like that is by offering the queen trade, and big moment for Pragg. He wants to maybe actually force black to trade on his terms by playing a move like c5, hitting the black queen, but black is not obliged to trade necessarily. Black can take on b3, of course, which would open up white's rook, or black can simply slide back with his queen. I think Firouzja, dream start to this game for him. He's eaten away at the time advantage, he's gained a bit of time with his pieces, and yeah, I think objectively doing very well as well here for black.
Yeah, this has been a very strange opening by both, but I agree with both of you that Alireza has won the opening battle in terms of how the awkwardness of the moves managed to win some of the time back for him. He started with a 3-minute time deficit, and now it's less of a gap.
And again, it's not to say like Pragg can't come back and win this, but remember, everyone, white has to win. Black draws. The queens are off the board. There's plenty of chess ahead, but I think when we're thinking about white having to win, you're often looking for that opening, looking for the recipe of aggression. Yeah. You know what I mean? And we haven't really seen, probably the most aggressive position we had at any moment was when Ding Liren had f4 on the board versus Magnus in a game that Magnus very quickly said, no, I'm locking this thing up.
Yeah.
So it's just, these aren't openings where we see white getting the kind of attacking chess you think you'd have to do when you're in a must-win spot.
True, but it's so hard, the pressure, and there's so many openings, as you pointed out, David, earlier, where black can try to aim for a very, very dull, very strategically solid position. So how do you try to get out of those theoretical lines where a draw is very likely when you're playing Armageddon?
Yeah, it just hasn't worked so far for the players with white in Armageddon. That being said, there's now a couple of imbalances in the position. The pawn structure, white has a semi-open A file, might not lead to too much, but also the bishop pair for black versus knights for white, and the position's quite locked up, so for now, knights okay for white.
And our second Armageddon parallel is starting. Pia crumbling with the white pieces against Hikaru. It's certainly somewhat of a heartbreak for Pia that she has to play an Armageddon game. She had quite a big, if not decisive, advantage. But we shall see whether she can get the advantage again and win in the Armageddon.
Agreed. If you missed that game, Pia Cromling had the biggest advantage of anyone in a classical chess game, but it got away from her. Now she has to do it all over again. She has the white pieces, currently has a healthy 3-minute time advantage that she started with, and she has a different opening, right? This is not a Nimzo Indian. That's the biggest change to just quickly observe, David.
Yeah, it's one of the main lines now of the Queen's Gambit declined, so both players switching it up a bit here, and Pia has years of experience in this type of structure, so I expect her to rattle out the first few moves quite quickly. On the left of our screens, the Armageddon we were covering earlier, very blocked position. I think stylistically, actually, it favours Pragg more than it favours Firouzja, but black fundamentally is solid, so draw odds could play a huge role. So far, crumbling against Humpy here, Anna, it's all theoretical, and who do you think that's going to favour? Different from some of the Armageddons we've seen early on.
Yeah, very different. This is the most theoretical and most classical approach to an opening that we have seen today in Armageddon, not going with the more sidelines, more dubious or strange approaches as some of the other Armageddon games. We shall see how it turns out for Humpy, because it's mostly on black side whether they want to go off of the most well-known tracks of opening theory. What do you think, Danny? How will this turn out between Pia Crumling and Hikaru, that they are going for a more theoretical, more classical line?
I'm going to say that I don't want to say it because I don't want to jinx Pia at all, but this is the happiest I've been for anyone playing white in Armageddon, and it's also interesting that it's really the first player taking the strategy of playing a well-known line, David. Yeah. We've seen black play all the unique, call it slightly dubious or not, moving some pieces twice before move 10 or whatever, but it worked out very well for both Magnus and Hikaru, and okay, until that last move from Firouzja, it's been working very well for him against Pragg, and I still think it will because the time has become equal. But in this game, look at Pia's time advantage. It's about as healthy as it was when it started, full 3 minutes, and it seems to be a position she's comfortable with, so I think it's okay for white, and objectively the position is close to equal, but I like that she's keeping the edge on the clock. And as I say it, I should knock on wood because she's been thinking now for almost a minute. Okay.
Yeah, but it's interesting though to see these different strategies play out in terms of opening, in terms of clock handling. Pia no doubt will try to speed up at some point, but maybe after reorienting herself here. In the other game, Pragg against Firouzja, we saw a questionable decision maybe from Firouzja. He traded off one of White's doubled pawns, and pawns on both flanks maybe favouring the bishop over the knight. White's king has great flexibility as well. As I mentioned earlier, Pragg loves these types of positions. He beat me in a technical endgame when he was 12. He knows how to handle these types of positions. Firouzja, I don't associate him, Danny, as being comfortable here in slightly worse positions where he just has to knuckle down and defend.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. And comfort zone, more important than ever when you don't have a lot of time on the clock, right? It's when the gloves come off and your intuition takes over. So yeah, I'm liking where this is going a little bit for Pragg, but let's not forget, Black has draw odds. So it is a lot that remains to be seen. And by the way, the time advantage got down to only 2 minutes there in the game between Pia Cromling and Humpy Canero, but White's still doing okay and still up a couple minutes on the clock.
Well, the time advantage for Pragg is basically gone. I do like his positional advantage for what David said about the bishop being a stronger minor piece when there's pawns on both flanks. I like a potential king march all the way to f5, king f3, king g4, king f5. I think Pragg definitely is considering those kind of ideas because this is an endgame and your king could be the main hero of the story.
Agreed.
And big question now for Firouzja, which pawn to capture back with. It looks like Pragg at least giving his opponent some decisions, some key moments there.
We should highlight why it's so dangerous for Black. I think it's because the white king is about to dart up the board, right? King of 3, king g4, and those pawns are targets regardless of how you recapture, and regardless of whether the rooks stare down each other on the h-file. The white king is coming in, and the more I look at it, the more the knight looks like it could be dominant. You could literally imagine the bishop landing on f5 for white, and the knight having to be like on f8 or something just to hold the squares, and that is a bishop that will dominate a knight. Maybe we may, depending on if that happens or not, we may have to dive into just that board for a little bit, knowing that the Pia Cromling Humpy Canero battle started a few minutes later, so we can come back to the two-board view here. But yeah, I'm really curious to see if Pragg plays king f3 here, and he knows he's got a chance.
Yeah, surely it's the only way to justify his previous move, to keep kind of applying some pressure. King f3, victorious king march, lead from the front. Big outpost here on f5. Black's biggest weakness is f6, so it makes sense to go for it. You don't have knights anymore, don't have a dark squared bishop, use your king. I'm really surprised Firouzja, pretty much his last move, other than taking on g5, was to move his king away from the center.
Yeah.
Why would the king not just come into the middle of the board? The black king could have marched to e6, e7, and yeah, Danny, I think you've predicted the future. King g4, he might be trying to keep the king at bay by putting the knight on a really ugly square like g7.
Yeah, but either way, I mean, so you could play bishop f5 or king g4. I think you always meet. Well, it's interesting. If d4 comes for Black, that's the one shot you got to be careful about. Black is going to try to strike with d4, and it's not so simple. In fact, maybe there you go. Pragg, being disciplined, is going to stop d4 before he gets surgical up on the king side. So, yeah, I'm liking Pragg, and maybe this is a game where White has great winning chances, Anna.
I think so. I think Pragg looking good. He doesn't have a time advantage anymore, but it's a type of position where he is comfortable. He will be confident about his chances, and what we said about Alireza, and stylistically how this is not exactly what he would be happy with. This is, I think, a really good chance for the 18-year-old Indian star to score the first win of the day with the white pieces in Armageddon.
Yeah.
Agreed, town. Population us, all three of us. It's a big town. I think we're all in agreement here.
I was actually going to say, just Karpov Unziker, bishop h7, would that be an idea? Just block the file, use it to, once it's blocked, use it to double up the rooks, and only release the tension later.
Did you just go Karpov Unziker?
I don't know.
You just went full chess history. That is a brilliant. What a game to quote. Can we just analyze it real quick? I know it splits, but you got to just throw bishop h7 on the board. I don't know if that's the move that the ancient wants with the eval.
It drops.
but the rook is, you block the rook, and now you're threatening to bring the rook in. There may be some weird tactics.
Maybe some weird tactics with F5 or rookie forecheck, but
okay,
that's a
but
idea.
What an idea. And maybe there's even some way to keep the idea in mind, but do it a little differently with like bishop g6 first, gain a tempo on the rook. Maybe you disconnect them after rook e8, right? Oh, by the way, he's playing. Okay, that is.
Bishop
I would
g6.
swear I didn't see that he played it, but if the rooks get disconnected, these ideas are very dangerous on the h file.
Let's see if
Rook e8 was a slight inaccuracy or mistake according to our computer, and bishop g6 was the sort of best reaction to it, and Pragg has found it. He is somewhat lower in time, and our viewers are pointing out that Alireza is really good in time scrambles. I think that's true, but his position is tough to play. So even though he's really good at time scrambles, the position itself is very difficult to be in.
Yeah, Pragg may be less known for his bullet skills, so that's one cause for concern, but if he's not able to hold the next 10-15 moves for Firouzja, no matter how quick he is, it might be an uphill struggle. So bishop g6, yeah, the black rook's about to move. Maybe e4 on the cards as well. If the white rook ever lands on the 7th rank, this knight on g7 would have been trapped. So, yeah, critical moments ahead. Firouzja's burning so much time, though.
He is, and he's about to be under a minute. And draw odds or not, they still got 13 more moves to make before you start getting 1 second added with every move. Once they hit that 40 move mark, everyone, that is the first finish line to try to get to. The rook has to commit to f8, and I love your e4, David. At some point, I don't know when, but you're right. And again, we called it out, and it's not to call Firouzja out, but I don't think defending technical endgames is where he's happiest. And you really come back to this move, king b8, as a shuffle that felt sort of nebulous and irrelevant is actually critical. If the position opens up, that king is not nearly as active as the white counterpart.
Yeah, if you could pick up that black king and plant it on e7, I think you cover all the squares and cover the pawns. You're going to hold this game, but look at this. Pragg now picks up a pawn, starts fiddling with it. That's the nerves, that's the calculation.
It's true Boris Gelfand style at this point. Funnily enough, they did make some really good impressions of other players when they had a dinner with Vichy on chess.com's YouTube channel. I highly recommend that video because this was one of the acting skills, actually, like trying to be or pretending to be another player, and Boris Gelfand was in the spotlight with the special pawn twisting.
But now it's ultra bullet chess. Both players around the 30-40 second mark, and still 11-12 moves to make just to get that 1 second increment. It's going to be all about the speed of hand right now.
All about the speed of hand, but for Pragg, it's all about a position where he's the one pushing.
But 20 seconds to make, what is it, 10 moves?
Does he realize 20 seconds to make 11 moves?
Oh my god.
That's
no increment.
That's not very fun. All Firouzja has to do right now is messy it up is what I was trying to say.
Flag him.
This is over the board chess. He cannot pre-move.
He can't pre-move.
Wow, he's
winning, but he has to make 9 moves in 15 seconds.
Black's d-pawn is coming.
Yeah.
This is terrifying.
Oh my gosh. He has rook f7. He's got e5 and bishop c2 at the end to guard.
Wow. He's got it all under control. The white bishop is coming back to guard the pawn. But okay, can Firouzja cling on?
This is it.
8 seconds.
He's got 5 seconds to make 6 moves. He's not going to do it.
Gosh,
Pragg's going to lose on time.
Oh my gosh.
Pragg's going to lose on time.
Just need to surprise him here. Any move, random move.
Any random move.
Maybe Firouzja's going to lose on time. 5 seconds.
Oh my god, dude, they don't realize they have no inquiry coming. What are you doing? Move.
Still 3 moves to make.
What is going on?
One of them is flagging no time, and the arbiter.
Wait, who? Someone's lost on time.
Who lost on time?
I think Firouzja lost on time, but both of them were about to flag. This was a crazy ending to a crazy Armageddon game. But Praggnanandhaa was better and winning on the board, but the clock situation could have decided it either way.
Wow. Looks like Pragg might have had 1 second left. The game ended on move 38, just 2 moves shy of the magical move 40, where they get the increment. There we see, it's confirmed. 1 second left for Pragg, 0 for Firouzja. The players struggling to adapt to this time control.
Unbelievable what we just saw.
Madness, and that just shows how Norway Chess, with this innovative format, is bringing on super exciting games. And what a finish this was! 0-0-1 versus 0-0.